Alright, so this is going to be a walkthrough of a 1983 Datsun 280ZX Turbo 2+2. As you can see, the paint is in very mixed condition. On the sides it's fine, on the top it's completely missing its clear coat. It still has everything is stock in this vehicle except for this fuel pressure regulator up here, and that is it. Everything else in this vehicle is 100% bone stock. So let's start from the rear. You see it's fairly clean, it's doing alright, has all of its original badging. This is pretty much the only accident damage. It was parked next to my house and someone decided to hit it and drive away. It's purely cosmetic and these dents will easily pull out, so it's nothing too big to worry about. Hood, paint scuff right there, badge. The front of it has seen some better days. It's definitely encountered a few low parking stops. The headlights aren't cracked at all. They actually look brand new. So something that's really nice about this is both rear tail lights are immaculate. You wouldn't need to replace them. On a lot of these they're cracked and they're very difficult to find. So let's keep our walk around. I'll detail some of the rust issues. There's a little bit on this quarter panel. If I recall, there's almost nothing there. There's just a tiny dab of it right here. You can see there's a little bit, but not really much of anything. There happens to be a little bit more on this side, which makes sense. It's kind of where rust piles. But what you will also notice, if you can see, is the underside of the car is pretty much completely immaculate. There's nothing damaged. It's just those minor rust points, which is, so if you don't know what you're buying, then you won't understand that this is a very clean example. These cars are notorious for rusting out, just sitting anywhere. So for this to have that tiny bit of surface rust and a little bit of the quarter panel rot, which is quite fixable, totally safe. And honestly, for one of these, this is a very clean example. When I took it to an antique shop to do some repair work on it, they were actually really surprised by it. This was a Texas car, as you can see. So even in Texas, stuff like that happens. There's also a very minor spot of rust right here. None of this seems to have gotten worse because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't see the salt or anything ever. I try to keep it stored inside. But that's most of the outside of it. You'll see from the engine bay, it's still completely original. It has brand new belts, a brand new fan clutch, new filter, new oil. Here's the aftermarket fuel pressure regulator that's there just for S&G to help balance out the fact that we mix ethanol with our gasoline. This is fairly new. You can see it is indeed the turbo model. Actually has cruise control. I haven't been able to get that to work, but everything else seems to work. Even the headlight washers, all that stuff. And it has a neat little a cute little light over here that somehow still works. Dink. Yay. New battery, that don't count. The HVAC system still blows ice cold 35 years later. So let's go to the back, start the interior. You'll see that there's definitely some issues with the rear because this was a Texas car and it wasn't left to vent. It has some heat damage. Overall, it's fairly clean, but if you want this to be immaculate, then you will absolutely need to restore it. It does still have its straps for the T-tops. It also still has the bags for the T-tops. This antenna still works if you care. The defrost still works. The rear windshield wiper works. I mean, literally everything works. So let's go over the front. You can see the interior is fairly clean. The seats might use a little bit of a clean. It is indeed the 2+2 model. There's nice bucket seats for insurance break. You can see this car is extremely clean for its age and being daily driven and all that kind of stuff. These examples right now I've seen range anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 in perfect condition because these are one of 7,000. There were only 7,000 2+2 turbos ever made. You can see I keep it low on gas so that I can keep fresh gas in it. It's got 110,000 miles. It's got a little bit of fade, but not a lot. Old Z, turbo badge, original radio, the nicer radio. All these controls still work. All the gauge pods. You can see the crack. They make crack restore kits. So overall, this dash is in fairly decent condition. This would be the hardest one to repair. Let's see. I actually ran a fuel pressure gauge just because I'd like to know the fuel pressure. It's a turbo. I want to make sure it don't ever drop out just in case there's some gunk in the tank. Will that work? I won't turn on. Alright, so let's put the keys. So there are actually two kind of keys that come with this. This is the original key. This is for all the body work. And this is the ignition key. Something I'd like to notate is you can hear that it'll actually trigger both. So, kind of fun little feature it has. The mirrors are still automatic. I'll need to engage the ignition. There we go. Quick. See, all the gauges work, all the lights are on, blah, 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 blah. You can actually see that the only issue it has is windshield washer fluid. I'm not sure why that is. I've been working on that. But like the low coolant thing all works. It's great. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The mirrors still work. Believe it or not, it's kind of crazy. The windows still work flawlessly, even with the car off. So let's give it a start and see what it does. Okay. Something to note is this car hasn't been touched for 2 weeks and it just starts right up. I will have full disclosure on this. It's not exactly the greatest all the time. These are notorious for electrical issues. You might want to look into an aftermarket ECU like a Mega Squirt, because this will occasionally have issues between 1 and 3,000 RPMs, especially when cold. Let's see if it revs up. See how it kind of struggles under 3. Once it's over, it's totally fine. this stuff still works. Let me turn on the air conditioning, still works. Air conditioning turns off. It'll do its thing. You know, that's typical. But like all the vents, all this stuff still works. Cruise control light turns on. I don't actually know how to turn it off. Or I don't actually know why it doesn't engage. I just haven't taken time to research it. Eventually I'll figure it out. Then you have all these different gauge lights, defrost, clean the lights. And it does need a new exhaust. I've been waiting. I want to put a 3-inch exhaust just so that it'll have more horsepower. And you can see, like, overall it's a pretty decent machine. Still needs some love, but it sure ain't broken. Guess that concludes the tour.